Hi, it's Jason here, and I'm here with Michaela today to talk to you about something called growth mindset. We're looking at resilience and being adaptable. How do we cope with the last part of the semester and what's still a really challenging time? So, we're going to hone in on this idea of swapping pessimistic thinking for more optimistic thinking. There are lots of reasons why it can be hard to stick to good habits or to develop new skills or, struggle to manage change in life. But more often than not, the biggest challenge is actually just sitting between our ears. Our mind is a really powerful thing, and the stories that we tell ourselves are the focus today, the beliefs that we have about ourselves, because they can either prevent change from happening or they can allow us to adapt and get on with life and meet life's challenges. So, what is a growth mindset? Growth mindset refers to a learning theory developed by Dr. Carol Dweck, and it revolves around this whole idea that you can actually improve yourself. You can build resilience and skills and performance. The opposite, a fixed mindset, refers to the belief that a person's skills or abilities are set in stone. But there's a significant body of research out there now supporting the idea that mindset is actually malleable, that you can change your mindset and obviously consequently change your ability to adapt in life and to perform well.
So, people with a growth mindset will tend to seek out better feedback and persist for longer, will cope better with transitions and develop better self regulation, will experience reduced stress and increased well-being and emotional functioning, and also have improved self esteem and higher achievement levels.
So we can see that this is a good thing. Let's highlight the difference between the two mindsets here. If we look at this little infographic, on the left-hand side of the table, we've got a fixed mindset. And you can see there that somebody with a fixed mindset tends to avoid challenges in life. They tend to get defensive and give up easily. They see their efforts as fruitless, and they tend to ignore feedback. So you can see that this is going to lead to a pattern of negative thinking and a lack of resilience, a lack of ability to adapt to changes in life.
So, a person with a growth mindset will tend to lead to a desire to learn and therefore a tendency to embrace challenges, to persist in the face of setbacks, and will see effort as a path to mastery. They'll also learn from criticism and find lessons and inspiration in the success of others, as well as their own failures, which they'll tend to see as learning opportunities. As a result, they reach even higher levels of achievement.
So you can see here that that growth mindset is definitely going to lead to a person that's more able to deal with life's challenges. So where would you sit on that kind of spectrum? Let's not think of it as just straight up a choice between fixed or growth, but if you look at a kind of continuum there, where would you place yourself on that continuum? And then further to that, are there certain situations where you have a fixed mindset, specific skills or specific challenges in life where you think you have more of a fixed mindset? What are they? And it might be worth kind of noting that in your mind and reflecting on that. Are those opportunities for you to maybe develop more of a growth mindset? For me personally, I have a real fixed mindset around maths and around finances. In my household, my wife does most of the finances, and I think I've kind of developed this rut or this habit of thinking of myself as being no good at that kind of thing, and so I don't push myself to learn or improve, and I end up in this kind of rut. So I've got a real fixed mindset in that area. What about you, Michaela?
For me, I have a very fixed mindset when it comes to the kinds of sports that I play. With my rugby, I'm very keen to make mistakes, get feedback, learn from all my failures, whereas I refuse to play AFL because I believe that I can't kick a ball while I am running. So I just completely avoid the sport altogether, even though I know that if I were to practice and put in effort, I probably could learn how to kick properly.
We'll crack her eventually. She'll be an AFL player in no
Not
time.
happening.
So how do we overcome that kind of negative thinking, the pessimistic thinking, the fixed mindset? The approach we're going to talk about is the ABC technique, developed by Dr. Martin Seligman, who's a highly regarded professor in psychology. And the ABC stands for adversity, beliefs, and consequences. So we encounter adversity, that's the stressful event or the challenge in our lives. How we think about that event creates beliefs, and those beliefs will influence what we do next. So they become consequences. So the three kind of flow off each other.
An example of this is when you get a poor mark back for an assignment. This is the adversity. You then think, I'm not very smart, which is the belief. And you then perform poorly in your next assignments because your self confidence has plummeted, the consequence. The key point occurs between adversity and belief. When you encounter adversity, how you tend to explain it to yourself, the belief, directly impacts your mindset and your relationships. Seligman calls this your explanatory style, and he says that it is a habit that influences your entire outlook on life. So if you go back and you look at the same example, or you get a poor mark back for an assignment, which is the adversity, but then you believe, oh, this is just one mark, I just need to put in a bit more effort, ask for help, try a bit harder, find better resources. You then perform a bit better in your next assignments because you've improved your self-confidence, you've worked hard, and you didn't look at that event as the end of the world.
So you can see that your belief there is the key point. A shift in your beliefs shifts everything that happens after. So Seligman mentioned this idea of an explanatory style, and that's kind of your inner monologue. It's the way that you explain things happening in your life, in your mind, to yourself. And there are three key elements here. So somebody with a fixed mindset will do the things on the left-hand side of your screen, and a person with a growth mindset tends to do the things on the right-hand side. So the first one there, a fixed mindset, somebody thinks of events as permanent. So when something bad happens, they think it's always going to be like this. Whereas somebody with a growth mindset sees things as more temporary. They'll think, okay, well, this is tough, but it will pass. This too shall pass, that kind of mantra. So you can think about, for me personally, during the whole COVID-19, period, there was definitely a time at the start of that period where I had a real fixed mindset and I thought things are just going downhill and getting worse and it's never going to get better. The whole world is going to change and, what I knew and loved about life before will never return. And that we can see already is changing, but I definitely at that time had a real fixed mindset around that issue.
Yeah, mine's the same with COVID. All my cafes were closed. Can't go and get a coffee on a Saturday morning unless it's takeaway. My gym was closed, so I can't go and train. My training had been cancelled, so it was just really hard at that time to think that it's not always going to be like this. It felt like it was going to go on forever, but it is passing slowly. Things are opening back up and getting back to normal, or the new normal.
Back to breakfast at Double Shot.
And Saturday coffees and food is really good.
So you can see this trend continuing with the other two there. We've got a pervasive kind of explanatory style where it's not just it's always going to be like this, but it's also that everything is ruined now. That it's not just, you getting a bad mark in an assignment and thinking, well, maybe I need to work on those sorts of assignments. It's you getting a bad mark in an assignment and using that to explain everything in your life. Everything is ruined now. My boyfriend doesn't like me anymore. My parents are angry at me. I'm no good at any of my subjects. That's the kind of fixed mindset. The growth mindset is much more localized. So it's just thinking, I need to work on this specific situation. So that during COVID might be, okay, I understand that I can't go to a cafe the same way I used to, but that doesn't mean that everything else in my life is ruined. I can still have Zoom catch-ups. I can still get exercise. I can still do all of these other things in new ways. So it's about reframing your thinking.
Yeah, definitely. I suppose being adaptable too. So, if you're used to going to the gym and you're so used to being fit and then it's closed and you're like, oh, everything's ruined now. Everything's just not the same. Instead of looking at it as an opportunity to improve your fitness in other areas, like, oh, I can work on my running now. I can work on just going for a nice walk and enjoying exercise again. For me, that made a big difference during COVID.
The last one there is personal versus external. So somebody with a fixed mindset will explain events as being all about them, I guess, that I am the problem, that it's my fault, that I'm no good. Whereas somebody with a growth mindset is able to externalize things. It's nothing to do with me as a person. It's not a judgment on me as a person. It's just an event that I need to deal with and adapt to and grow from. So hopefully you get a nice idea there of some of the thinking patterns that will happen with a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. And the key thing here is that maybe you note that, and that you try and kind of check yourself when you experience adversity. The first thing we leap to is a belief about that event. What kind of beliefs are you forming, and how do they fit into this little model? And how could you challenge those beliefs, dispute them, and try and reframe your thinking? So, in summary, we've got people with a growth mindset having better outcomes in regards to their ability to cope, deal with stress, their well-being, their self-esteem, and their performance. We've talked about the fact that we often encounter some kind of adversity, and how we think about that creates beliefs which become consequences. That was that ABC model. So when you encounter adversity, how you tend to explain it to yourself directly impacts your mindset and your relationships and your behaviors and everything that kind of happens after.
Yeah, and people with a fixed mindset will often explain adversity to themselves in terms of the adversity being permanent, like it's never going to change, things will always be this way, and pervasive, this always happens to me, and personal, I'm a bad slash useless person and I just can't do anything right. We can build a growth mindset by challenging these beliefs, and when we notice them popping up in our mind, we take the time to think of it in a different way. Yeah.
So hopefully you guys take some of that on board, coping with the last bit of this semester, and hopefully the last bit of this very challenging time in our community. Challenge your beliefs and try and adapt some of those growth mindset explanatory styles. Hope you found this interesting, and we'll see you soon. Thanks.
Soon.